I feel so far under satanic power and satanic control.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at cult members who felt compelled to kill multiple times.
He believed that he couldn't be seen, that he was invisible. He was told he was invisible.
Stephen Tari. Aspiring Lutheran minister turned cult leader Stephen Tari promised his followers good fortune and immortality.
He was using the Bible verse to preach. They told him that he was the bridge to heaven.
He held remarkable power over the estimated 6,000 devotees who believed he was their Messiah.
He prayed with all the people. And then a black cloud moved across to where the gathering was. And then it stayed there. And out of the black cloud, food was delivered.
He even convinced several of them to hand over their own family members to serve as his flower girls. Many of these young women were assaulted, and it is thought that some were murdered. Tari evaded punishment for years before finally being found guilty of assault charges in 2010. In 2013, after escaping prison, Tari paid for his crimes when a mob of local men took matters into their own hands.
A group of villagers armed themselves, then hunt down Stephen Tari and his disciples.
Tari was killed and buried in a remote village in the Madang province of Papua New Guinea, ending his reign of terror. Glenn Helzer. Self-proclaimed prophet Glenn Helzer founded a religious sect in the 1990s known as the Children of Thunder. Part of the group's mission involved a grand scheme to take over the Mormon Church.
Taylor felt he would be a better leader of the Mormon Church.
By doing so, Helzer convinced his followers they would bring about the second coming of Christ.
So Glenn Helzer came up with this idea that he was a prophet.
To finance his plan, Helzer needed to acquire plenty of money, so he enlisted his followers to carry out a murderous extortion plot that resulted in the brutal slaying of 5 people.
To reassure them, Taylor explains that there's no danger.
It didn't take long for authorities to connect the killings to the group. In August 2000, Helzer was arrested and later sentenced to death. Jeffrey Lundgren. Known for his controversial scripture interpretations, Jeffrey Lundgren led a small group of fervent followers in Kirtland, Ohio during the late 1980s.
Members of that community referred to him as their prophet.
The group's ultimate goal was to seize control of the historic Kirtland Temple, the first LDS temple constructed in the U.S. Lundgren required strict obedience from his followers, eventually insisting that they financially support him and live with him at his farmhouse.
Seemed to be the best kept secret in town. I still think it is, probably maybe in the nation.
When the Avery family refused to make the move, Lundgren decided to punish them. He lured all 5 members of the family to the barn on his property, where they were killed one by one.
And I said, if you will go in that barn and look where I told you to look, I said, you will find bodies.
Lundgren was later apprehended and sentenced to death. On October 24, 2006, he was executed by the state of Ohio for his crimes. Silvia Meraz. Born into poverty in Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico, Silvia Meraz lived an unremarkable life for many years.
The Meraz family lived in makeshift shacks on the outskirts of town, without electricity or running water.
But when she became convinced she could gain favor from Santa Muerte through human sacrifice, things took a sinister turn.
Silvia believed the bony lady could protect her family and bring them peace and prosperity.
In 2009, with the support of a small clan of followers, mostly consisting of her family members, Meraz selected her first victim, Cleotilde Romero Pacheco.
Once the deed was done and the dirt tamped down, Silvia faced a profound question. Would Santa Muerte deliver on their requests?
She then proceeded to make 2 more human sacrifices, both of them relatives. When a missing person report was filed for one of the victims, police narrowed in on Meraz. She was apprehended in 2012 and sentenced to 180 years in prison. Carl Drew. A series of murders in Fall River, Massachusetts rattled the community in 1979 and 1980. All of the killings appeared ritualistic and were particularly gruesome.
We would speak to people who would tell us that Satan controls the street. And who is Satan?
Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from...
Oh, sure.
The victims, Doreen Levesque, Barbara Raposa, and Karen Marsden, were sex workers who shared a common connection, a man named Carl Drew. Known for his sadistic and domineering personality, Drew allegedly led a small satanic cult and was feared by many on the streets of Fall River.
She wanted to go to St. Mary's Church and talk to a priest.
During their investigation, authorities determined that Drew likely orchestrated all 3 killings. Drew was convicted in 1981 for Marsden's murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. However, creators of a 2021 docu-series about the murders questioned his guilt.
Are you nervous, or how you feel?
Well, kind of anxious to get this thing going, get it out there, and it's been a long time,
Valentina de Andrade. The Superior Universal Lineage sect was a doomsday cult founded by Valentina de Andrade in Altimar, Brazil during the late 1980s.
The case of Valentina de Andrade is dark.
The group espoused some extremely unconventional beliefs and teachings involving black magic, UFOs, and Satanism. Followers were also taught to be wary of children, with particular emphasis placed on those born after 1981.
Mainly the little boys, she said. They were the instruments of the nefarious one.
When several local boys went missing and several others were found murdered or maimed, suspicion soon settled on the bizarre religious sect. Rumors of organs being sold on the black market began to circulate as well. Ultimately, 4 members of the group were prosecuted in connection with the crimes.
Valentina was free to live her life for 11 years.
But shockingly, Andrade was acquitted. There are lingering questions surrounding these killings. Magdalena Solis, known as the High Priestess of Blood. Magdalena Solis craved ultimate control over her followers.
She could see the desperation and hope in their eyes as they looked upon her with reverence.
Born into an impoverished and dysfunctional family, Solis left home early in life. Sometime during the 1960s, 2 brothers recruited her to help them trick their cult into believing they were the descendants of ancient gods. They wanted someone to pretend to be the reincarnation of the Aztec goddess Coatlicue. Solis embraced her new role and eventually usurped the brothers, taking control of the cult.
By then, she was but a vessel, guiding the group blindly on warped faith alone.
To maintain her power, she implemented blood rituals, claiming that as a goddess, she needed to ingest blood.
They cut flesh until it gave up its precious blood, filling her cup mixed with chicken blood for vile rituals.
Anyone who went against Solis was subjected to the ritual. As many as 15 people faced Solis's wrath before the deadly carnage came to an end. Adolfo Constanzo. During the 1980s, the narco-Satanist cult terrorized Mexico City and the surrounding area.
Adolfo Constanzo was looking for that huge opportunity for money.
The group had ties to some of the city's most powerful drug cartels and was led by the charismatic Adolfo Constanzo and his loyal second-in-command, Sarah Aldrete. Dubbed the Godfather, Constanzo believed he was magic.
Adolfo started talking to him about, his religion and that this could help their business and told him how it could help their business.
He grew up practicing the Palo Mayombe religion and performing animal sacrifices. As the leader of the narco-Satanists, he's thought to be responsible for at least 20 ritualistic killings, as well as other atrocities. Unfortunately, Constanzo never faced justice. He took his own life to evade arrest in 1989, but 14 of his followers were charged for their crimes, including Aldrete.
So they became believers, complete believers without constraint or hesitation.
Robin Gecht. During the 1980s, a cult of criminals known as the Ripper Crew haunted the Chicago area.
But with robbery clearly not the goal, the motive remains a mystery.
The group, which is likely responsible for at least 17 ritualistic murders, consisted of 4 members: Edward Spreitzer, brothers Andrew and Thomas Cocorales, and ringleader Robin Gecht.
They would go up into Robin Gecht's little attic.
Police were eventually able to gather enough evidence against the members of the Ripper Crew to make arrests. All of them ultimately confessed to their involvement. All of them except Gecht, who maintained his innocence throughout the process, although he avoided prosecution in the killings. In 1983, he was convicted on various other charges, including aggravated kidnapping and attempted murder.
The small dealings that we had with them, they were like a normal family as far as we knew.
He was sentenced to 120 years in prison and will be eligible for parole in 2042. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into Settings and switch on your notifications. David Berkowitz. The notorious serial killings committed by David Berkowitz during the late 1970s in New York City are still heavily discussed worldwide.
You have to be careful. You have to watch where you go now. You know, how late you stay out and
Have you restricted your own movements?
Yeah.
The official story is that Berkowitz was the sole perpetrator of the crimes. However, there is some speculation that perhaps he was an active cult member at the time of the murders and may not have acted alone. While behind bars, Berkowitz himself stated that he was involved in a satanic cult before becoming an evangelical Christian following his arrest.
I just see that my calling in life, what I feel is my calling, is to share the good news of Jesus Christ and to reach as many with that.
Investigative journalist Maury Terry, who started his own investigation, developed the theory that Berkowitz may have been a member of a cult called the Children, with his neighbors John and Michael Carr.
Did you do all of them?
I was at all of them.
Which of these cult killers would you be most afraid to cross paths with in the middle of the night? Let us know in the comments.
They wouldn't understand what it was to walk in darkness.